Okay, we're officially recording. And before I go ahead and get started, we actually have our one of our instructors that was out sick yesterday is luckily feeling better today and is back. So Armin's Welemezian, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the group.
Hello, everybody. My name is Armand. I've been with the Planetary Protection Group for about 5.5 years now. Been involved in all of the different voices workshops that we've put on over the years, and really excited about this one. I think it's unique in that we're teaching educators, and really excited to be here.
Great, thanks, Armin. And I should point out that you guys would know, I think I pointed this out yesterday, but just in case I didn't, at the top of your WebEx app, you should see a button called Breakout Sessions. And in that breakout sessions, you'll see a room with each one of the instructors' names on it. So pretty much whoever isn't teaching will be available in that breakout room. So if anyone gets behind or needs to get caught up, for whatever reason, they'll be able to hop in with an instructor and do that if that one-on-one attention is needed. So hopefully we'll be able to keep everyone together, but just in case we do have that option. So I did want to point it out. So if we ever ask you to hop into a breakout session, that's what we're referring to. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Looks good.
Yep.
Great. Okay. And so just to kind of remind us of where we were from yesterday, so I did go ahead on GitHub and update the schedule. I'll again put that in the chat for everyone. So I'll try at the end of each day to update the schedule if we didn't get through everything that we were planning on that day. So yesterday we went through the entire introduction lecture, and luckily Lisa did a great job, Armin, presenting your slides on planetary protection overview. So we were able to get through the whole introductory lecture. And then we logged onto our system, thankfully successfully, and began our Intro to Unix Jupyter notebook. And so we didn't quite finish that notebook. So we're going to start today by finishing that notebook. So I am going to go over a few more things, but just because it can take a few minutes to load our Jupyter hubs, I'm going to have everyone do that. And again, if you guys are wondering what website to go to, if you lost that information, you just go in the June 2022 Educator Pilot directory on GitHub, and then you could go to NCCS SMCE Bootcamp Setup. And then if you scroll down, right in the number 1 of the Getting Started section, you will see the link to get to our Jupyter Hub. So I'm also going to put this in the chat for everyone. So you guys could just go to that link. I'll do the same up here. And then it should prompt you to log in. So you're going to use your username. Let's grab my info, your username and your password. And you guys all should have changed your password yesterday after you first signed out. So hopefully you guys all still have that password on hand. And then once you hit the sign on button, you're going to receive a text message with that 6-digit code that you'll need to verify your identity. So go ahead and put in your code and click sign in. And then this time, because we had some issues with people getting kicked off, we do have the option of the on-demand server. So we're going to go ahead and select the small server that has the on-demand in parentheses next to it. And hopefully that'll reduce the risk of us getting kicked off as we're going through the notebooks. Everyone clear on what to click here? So small server on demand, and then you can go ahead and hit start. And as that is loading up our instance of the Jupyter Hub, is there anyone that's still waiting to get connected to Jupyter? So everyone is connected. And here, is there anyone that's not seeing? So you should see come up, unless you X'd out of this before you logged out yesterday, you should see that your Unix intro Jupyter Notebook is still up, and it should actually have all the outputs from what we ran yesterday on it because we went ahead and saved it before. If your Unix Intro Jupyter Notebook is not automatically up, just double click it from the side panel. So you'll also notice that all the files that we copied into our home directories are still there today. And they'll be there until we remove them. And so if it didn't come up automatically, go ahead and double click that Unix Intro Jupyter Notebook. Is there anyone who's not seeing this? Okay, good. A couple more housekeeping things. Just a reminder for those of you who haven't already, please send me a short bio and a headshot because of the story that NASA Office of Communications is going to be doing about this bootcamp. So they've requested your bios and headshots from each of you. So when you get a chance to send that my way, that would be great. And please try to keep your bios to no longer than about half a page. The other thing that I wanted to mention, which I failed to do at the end of yesterday's session, I did email you guys about it, but at the end of every session, so every day at the end of the day when we're ready to log out, I do need you guys to go to File and then click Log Out. So if you don't log out, the instance will stay running and then we're paying for it anytime it's running. So we want to make sure that we stay within our budget. So just make sure, even if one of the instructors, like I did yesterday, forgets to tell you how to log out at the end of the day, make sure at the end of the day when you're ready to sign off that you actually log out. The other thing that I wanted to point out is because the whole purpose of this bootcamp is to provide you guys with content that you can then subsequently teach at your home institution. So as you're going through these notebooks, if there's anything like in the instructions or in the descriptions that you would like to modify to make it more accessible to your students, because of course you know your students best, you can double click on any one of these and go ahead and add notes if you want to, and then just hit the play button and that note will be there and you can remove it. So go ahead, if there's anything that you guys want to add to these notebooks as we're going through, please go ahead and do that. If you want to add a completely new section that doesn't exist, so let's say that you're doing this head example and you wanted to add yourself a little note after it, you could just use the plus sign and it'll give you a new cell that Lauren pointed out yesterday. And this cell is automatically going to be a code cell. And you know that by looking at this toolbar up here, you'll see that it says code right there with when our cursor is in the cell. So that means that that's a code cell. So if you actually want to make this a text-based cell, what you do is just click on that where it says code, and then you can select markdown, and then it'll turn this code block into a markdown. So rather than it expecting a command in there to run, it'll instead just expect you to input text. So you can say, you can add some notes if you want to, and then just go ahead and press play and you'll see that it's listed there as text. And then of course, if you wrote something and you realize that you don't need it, you can go ahead and cut it. But as Lauren mentioned, make sure that you're careful with this scissor here because once you remove it, you can't get it back. So there's no undo, unfortunately, when it comes to removing these blocks. So just a couple of things I want you guys to keep in mind as we're going through today. So again, more than welcome to change these, modify them however you see fit. And at the end of the boot camp, well, at the end of each day, we'll make sure that we save everything. So any changes that you do make to your own instance of these notebooks will be saved. And then at the end of the boot camp on that last day, we will show you guys and we can set it up so that way if you do have a modified notebook and you prefer to use yours when you teach it at your home institution, we'll set it up in a way so that way your version of the notebook will be copied into your student's home directory. So we'll go over all that at the end. And another thing I want to note is as you go, if you get nervous, I know I habitually press save anytime I'm working on things because I've lost a lot of stuff by not doing that in the past. So you can go ahead and press this button, which will save all of your content and everything that you've run in your notebooks. This is set up to save every, I think it's like 30 seconds or a minute automatically, but just to be safe, it's always good to every once in a while press that save button. Okay, so yesterday when we were going through the Unix intro notebook, we went through the CP command, so that's where we will pick up today. But before we do, is there anything that any of you guys would like to see again? Anything that you want me to review or go over, not only from the Jupyter notebook, but also from the intro lecture? Nothing, everyone's pretty comfortable with what we went over yesterday? Okay, great. So in that case, I'm going to have you all jump to the CP section. And I hope if anyone's not currently up and looking at the Unix Intro Jupyter notebook, please let us know in the chat. Hopefully, since any of you guys mentioned this, you all are. Sorry, message. Okay. Yeah, so we are gonna go ahead and finish this up. I had a question about when we're gonna be finishing the Unix intro, so we'll be going through the Unix intro now. I'm hoping that we'll wrap it up within a half hour to an hour max, and so then hopefully before the break, we'll get started on the next notebook, which is the R notebook. So let's all jump to the CP section. And if you guys remember, we ended yesterday by us introducing you to some of these nice shortcuts that we could use to navigate around our directory structure. So the tilde here is going to be the shortcut for your home directory. A dot is going to be a shortcut for your current directory. And two dots is going to be a shortcut to indicate the directory above your current directory. And so here we copied this saturn.txt file from our home directory into our directory called solar system that we had created in a previous step of the notebook. And so this is the setup that I had given you all. And then we listed what's in our current directory with this ls command. Again, that dot indicating list what's in the current directory. And saw that we successfully copied saturn.txt. And then I had you guys come up with some other ways we could have done that. And so you guys come up with some good ways. So we were going from the solar system directory. And so one example of a copy command was to use this tilde, which means to go home, and then a / saying that in that home directory, I want you to find that saturn.txt file and then copy it to my current directory. And for us, that current directory was the solar system directory. And then we played around with this echo command to show that when we do echo just that tilde, we see that we get our home directory printed back out to us, again showing that that tilde is inherently storing our home directory location. Then just another way to have copied the saturn.txt file, you can write out the explicit path to the solar system directory. Any questions about the CP command before we go on to the move command? Okay, so before we go on to the move command, I want to make sure that we're in the solar system directory. So if everyone can add a code block, and then you guys go ahead and put this in the chat. What command do I run to know what my current directory is? So you guys go ahead and put that in the chat. What command do I run to find out what directory I'm in currently? Yeah. Right, exactly. It's pwd, but keep in mind because we are running, we're running Unix commands in a Python kernel Jupyter notebook. Jupyter has this nifty little trick where if we add an exclamation point before a Unix command, it will tell the notebook that this command that comes after that exclamation point should be a Unix command and not a Python command. So we can go ahead and run that. Again, to execute a cell, you can either hold Shift and Enter on your keyboard, or you can press this play button up here. And you'll see an asterisk in here when the command is running, and once it's complete, it'll be populated with a number. And so you'll notice here, I am currently in my home directory. I want to be in my solar system directory. And so for those of you guys who are in your home directory, what command would we run to change directories into our solar system directory? Yeah, Mark, that was fast. It's like you knew what I was going to say. Mark has it right in the chat there. So for CD, this is the only one that doesn't use the exclamation point of the commands that we're using. So for this one, we need to use a percent sign in front of the CD. And then we want the name of that, the solar system directory that we had made earlier. And so the solar system directory that we had made yesterday, it should still be there in our home directory, and we can see it here on the left. And so we should be able just to CD directly into that solar system directory. So I went ahead and ran that. And again, a nice trick of Jupyter Notebook is that when you run a CD command, it'll tell you where you're going. Again, that's not always the case. It's not the case when you use a local terminal. So I'd like you to get in the habit of once you do CD somewhere to run a PWD command again, to make sure that indeed you are where you expect to be. So is there anyone that's not currently in their solar system directory? Let me know in the chat. Okay, excellent. So now that we're in our solar system directory, if you remember from the copy commands, we had copied that Saturn.txt file into our solar system directory. So actually, before we get into the move command, why don't we go ahead and see what's in our solar system directory? Do you guys remember the command to see what's in our solar system directory or our current directory? Yeah. Yeah, those are all right. So exclamation point ls, and you could do it with or without the dot to indicate your current directory. And so indeed, I have my Saturn.txt file in my solar system directory. Is there anyone who does not see their Saturn.txt file in there? Okay, great. So moving on next to this move command, abbreviated MV. So the MV command stands for move, and it can either rename or move an existing file. And so if you want to rename the file, if you supply the move with the name of the existing file, followed by what you want the new name of the file to be, the existing file will be renamed to the new file name. So as an example, if you were to run mv saturn underscore copy.txt, never made that file. Oh, okay. So I did skip a step. So here we want to actually make a copy of the Saturn.txt file and name the copy of that file Saturn underscore copy.txt. So I did forget to go over this, I think, yesterday. So if you do try to copy to a file name that's already in use in that directory, the copy command will overwrite the existing file without automatically warning you. So you got to be careful with your copy commands, and that's actually similar to the move command that we'll go over. So before we go into that move command, I want to make a copy of my Saturn.txt file in my current directory, but name that copy Saturn underscore copy.txt. And then run ls in the cell to see if you were successful. So I'm going to give everyone a second to think about that, and then to do it. And I'm going to set up a poll for you guys to put your responses in. So let's do that first. So I want you guys to make a copy, and you can add a cell to do this. So make a copy of your Saturn.txt file and name the copy Saturn underscore copy.txt. And I will set up a poll for this. Okay, I just opened the poll, so hopefully you guys all see that poll opened up. So go ahead and copy and paste the command you used to make a copy of your Saturn.txt file named Saturn_copy.txt. I'm gonna wait till everyone's answered that. Waiting on a few more people to answer. Click submit once you put in your command to make a copy of that Saturn.txt file named copy underscore or Saturn_copy.txt. And a couple more of you that still need to answer the poll. Go ahead and put your answer in and then click submit. Okay, looks like everyone's almost done. Okay, looks like all you guys completed. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close the poll now. Let me see these results here. So I think a couple of you guys used to move, some used the CD command. Okay, let's go over this. So what I want to do, we just ran this ls command, right? So we know that we have this Saturn.txt file in here. So I want to make a copy of it. So the command that we use to make a copy is going to be the cp command. So it's going to be !cp to start. So we're going to run the cp or the copy command. And then I want to copy this file, Saturn.txt. So that's the name of the file that I want to copy. And since it's in my current directory, I could just put Saturn.txt. You could also use the 1 period, which indicates the current directory with a /. So in the current directory, the Saturn.txt file. And then I want the copy of that to be also in my current directory. So you can either, you don't need to put a // if you don't want to, because if you don't put that, it assumes that you want it in your current directory, but you can put that for explicit sake. So it could look like this, and then I want the name of my copy to be Saturn_copy.txt. So I want to put the name of what I want it to be copied to. And then you go ahead and run that. And then once you run that, I want you guys all to add a cell and run your ls command again to see if you made that copy. And so if you did make a copy, now you should see 2 files in there, one Saturn.txt and one Saturn_copy.txt, and they should be the same file because one's a copy of the other. And I did just want to point out, I have that warning there, but if we were to have run something like copy this Saturn.txt file and name it Saturn.txt, we're not going to see a duplicate of that Saturn.txt file. Instead, what's going to happen is that Saturn.txt file is going to be overwritten by Saturn.txt. So it's going to end up looking the same. So if we, yeah, and it'll give you an error here saying that those are the same file. And so it won't allow you to do that. And so everyone now should have a Saturn.txt and a Saturn_copy.txt. Does that make sense? Is that clear for everyone? Is anyone confused with that or want to see another example of copying this file? So the first thing we did yesterday was we copied the Saturn.txt file from our home directory to our solar system directory, right? So we copied one file from one location, made a copy of it into another location. And when we made that copy, we didn't indicate a new name for the file. And so when you don't indicate a new name for the file, when you copy it, it'll make a copy with the same exact name. But now, in this example, we wanted to make a copy of our Saturn.txt file, but a Saturn.txt file already existed in our directory. And so it won't allow us to name it the same thing, but we can make a copy named something different. So that's what we did here. We made a copy of our Saturn.txt file and just named it Saturn_copy.txt. Any questions about that, about the copy command? Does everyone understand why we used CP? Is that clear for everyone? Why that was the command that we had to use to make the copy? Okay. Is there anyone that doesn't currently see a Saturn.txt and a Saturn_copy.txt file in their solar system directory? Okay, great. So now, again, sorry for jumping the gun here. Now we're going to move on to this move command. And so the move command, which is MV to run it, can either rename or move an existing file. So if you supply the MV command with the name of an existing file followed by a new file name, that existing file will be renamed to the new file name. And so I have an example here. That if you run MV and then that copy of the Saturn.txt file that we just made, so Saturn_copy.txt, and I want to move it to Mars.txt. And since this is in the same location, it's going to just rename the Saturn_copy.txt, and it'll rename it to Mars.txt. And so as we started out, we see we have a Saturn.txt and a Saturn_copy.txt in our current directory. So now we're going to change the name of Saturn_copy.txt to Mars.txt using the move command. So I'm going to give you guys some time to think about this. And in this cell, I want you to change the name of your Saturn_copy.txt file to Mars.txt using the MV command. And I'm going to set this up as a poll question so you guys can all put in your codes in the poll. Okay, I just opened the poll. So please go ahead and submit your responses. That's okay. Now everyone to copy and paste the command that you used to rename your file and then hit submit. A few more people that need to finish the poll. Give a few more seconds and then I'll close the poll and we'll go over the results. Okay, go ahead and close. Yeah. Awesome. So most of you got it right. I think just one of you forgot the exclamation point. So just don't forget to add your exclamation point to let Jupyter know that we want to run a Unix command MV. And then, yeah, the answer is kind of up here. So it's you just have to move the name of the file that you want to rename and then what you want to rename it to. And so I'm going to go ahead and run this again. Shift Enter or the play sign up here will allow you to run it. And then in this next code block here, I want you guys to run your ls command and now take a look at what's in your solar system directory. So here again, now we're seeing we no longer have the Saturn_copy.txt file because that's the file that we just renamed to Mars.txt. So we don't see that anymore. We now see Mars.txt. And so one thing I did want to warn you guys about, similar to the copy command, is that if you don't use a unique file name when you rename your file, so if you rename your file to a file that already exists, the move will overwrite the existing file and it's not going to warn you first. So just to show you what I mean, now that I have two files, mars.txt and saturn.txt, if I wanted to rename my mars.txt file to saturn.txt, it will overwrite my saturn.txt file. So if I use this move command and move mars.txt to saturn.txt and then run it, and now if I run an ls command, you'll notice that I lost my mars.txt file and I actually just overwrote my saturn.txt file with whatever was in my mars.txt file. So you want to be careful when you're using the cp and move command to make sure that you're not overwriting files that already exist with the same name in your directory. So since I know that the mars.txt file was already just a copy of saturn.txt, I'm actually just going to remake the copy so that way I match all of you guys. So if you guys went ahead and did this with me, make sure that you're running this with me too. So I'm going to copy that saturn.txt file again, and I'm just going to name it directly mars.txt. So I have both those files in my solar system directory. And then we'll just run the ls command, and I should see my mars.txt and saturn.txt files there again. Before I move on to the next step, is there anyone who doesn't have a mars.txt and a saturn.txt file in their current solar system directory? And is there anyone that wants to see any of what I just went over again? Okay, so we move on to the next section of the move. So if you supply the mv command with the name of an existing file followed by an existing directory, the file will be moved into that directory. So for example, if I were to run mv mars.txt ... that's going to move my mars.txt file into the directory above my current directory, because remember, this ... here is a shortcut for the directory above the one that you're currently in. So if you want to move your file to location somewhere other than the directory that's above your working directory, you can always put the full path to the move command. So for example, if I wanted to move this file into a directory on my desktop called my directory, I can run a command mv mars.txt to the full path to my directory, and that will move that mars.txt file to the my directory folder on my desktop. So, but before we go ahead and test that move function, I want you to pull up the move help menu in this next block. And I think I'm just going to have you guys put that in the chat. So what command would I run if I wanted to look at the help menu for the mv command? You guys go ahead and put that in the chat. Yeah, that's right, Mark. So it's going to be an exclamation point to again tell Jupyter that we want to run a Unix command, and then MV is the Unix command that we're running, and then -- help will pull up the help menu. And now if you run that, this is again a similar setup you'll notice for these commands with their help menu. So it tells you how to use the move command. It'll tell you that you want to run MV, a space followed by any option. And then you want to end with your source destination, your destination of where you want to move it to. And it tells you that it can rename a source to your destination, so your source file to your destination, or you can move your source file to a new directory. And then we have several different options that can be used for this command here. Again, the options listed here on the left, and then to the right of it is a description of what that option will do. And so this, again, works for any Unix command, is just running the command followed by -- help or -h, depending on how the program is written, and you'll be able to pull up a help command or a help menu. So in these next couple of cells, I want you to use the move command to move your mars.txt file into your home directory, which is currently one directory above the solar system directory that we're currently in. And then use ls to see if we're successful. So I'm going to put this up as a poll again for you guys to go ahead and show me how to move that mars.txt file into your home directory. Let's set up a poll again. Okay, I just opened the poll, so go ahead and copy and paste your responses of what your command looks like to move the mars.txt file into your home directory. There's several right answers here. So I still have at least one of you that needs to finish submitting what that command looks like to move your mars.txt file into your home directory. So give a few more seconds. Make sure that you're hitting submit once you copy and paste the command. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close the poll. Yeah. Got a couple of messages. Someone got a permission denied. That should not happen. Oh, okay. So keep in mind, so I see a bunch of correct responses. So I'm gonna kind of show you what all of them are that you guys had. So because it's one directory above the one that we're currently in, we can run this command. So this is moving the mars.txt file, and because there's nothing that comes before it, the move command is going to assume that mars.txt is in our current directory, which it is. And then the destination here is going to be .. / which is move it up inside the directory above this one. So that is correct. I saw another response. It was move mars.txt, and they just had the destination as a tilde, which is an inherent shortcut to the home directory. So this will also work, and this will actually work with or without the /, but I do like to have the / at the end of a directory. So it will work with or without it, but it's good practice to have it there. Someone else tried to run this command and got an error. So this command here gave an error. Does anyone know why? that is? Could put it in the chat or unmute your mic and tell me what's missing here. Yeah, thanks, Ty. The Jovian. So keep in mind our home directory, although on a lot of systems it is set up to home, on this one it's not. So keep in mind that our home directory, and again, if you don't know what your home directory is, you can echo a tilde, and tilde is the inherent alias for home directory on Unix, and go ahead and run that, and it'll tell you what your home directory is. And so in this case, what it was missing, as Ty pointed out, is Jovian. Yeah, someone else forgot to capitalize Mars. Yeah, Mark, you got to capitalize that M in Mars. Syntax errors are always what's wrong. And so the reason that this was incorrect is because our home directory is actually /home/Jovian, and then you'd have to add another / to get it into your solar system directory, and then just for good practice, I'd put one at the end. So any one of those would work. I'm really glad to see you guys using these shortcuts. I love shortcuts. And then you would go ahead and run this. And it's telling me that I already have a file called mars.txt in my home directory, but I do not. I don't see one here. Should work. I don't know why it's not.
I think you tried to put it in the solar system directory instead of your home one.
Oh, thanks, Mike. Yeah, sorry. It shouldn't be solar system there. We're putting in our home directory. Thank you. Yeah, that's right. So move mars.txt. It would just need the Jovian here for your home directory. Thanks, Mike. So yeah, I want to move it into my home directory because it is, of course, already in my solar system directory. And then you can use ls to see if you are right. So remember, we want to ls, but we want to see what's in our home directory. And so the home directory is one above where we are. So we could do a .. and run that. And we do see that our mars.txt file is there. We can also use a tilde to see what's in our home directory. And of course, we can also use the explicit path to see what's in our home directory. Is there anyone who wasn't able to copy their mars.txt file? What's the keyboard shortcut for running on? It's a shift-enter. So when you're within a cell, if you do shift-enter, it'll run that cell for you. Yes, we should all see our mars.txt file. And because we moved it, if we take a look at what's in our current directory, our solar system directory, we no longer see that mars.txt file. So we actually moved it from our solar system directory into our home directory, so it no longer exists. So, and this is just a note to indicate that if you successfully move mars.txt into your home directory, you should no longer see it in your current solar system directory when you run ls, which is what we just saw here. So in the next 3 cells, I want you to navigate to your home directory, just keeping in mind that when you're doing navigation, you're going to be using the cd command, which stands for change directory, and that requires a % before it. And then you're going to print your working directory to make sure that you have successfully moved to your home directory, and then you're going to list all files in your home directory. So I'm going to set up a poll for this. So I want to see 3 commands in the answers that you submit. The first one is how you change into your home directory. The next one is how you print your working directory to show that you changed into your home directory. And then the third is to list all the files in your home directory. So 3 commands I want to see. Okay, so I went ahead and opened the poll. So again, I want 3 commands. So go ahead and copy and paste those 3 commands. And make sure you submit your answers. So a couple more of you. Make sure you're copy and pasting those commands and submitting. And again, like the rest of you, there's going to be a few different right answers here. A few more seconds to finish up. You'll notice the tab function. All right, we'll give 20 more seconds. So those of you guys who haven't completed your poll with these 3 commands, go ahead and finish up and hit submit. Give you 20 more seconds here. Okay. So looks like most of you got it. Just awesome. Okay. Yeah, looks like most of you got it. So the first is to navigate to our home directory. So again, a few different ways you can do this. To navigate within your directory structure, we're going to use the CD command, which stands for change directory. And then to navigate to our home directory, a couple of different things we could do. So we could do a tilde, which stands for home directory. We could do tilde / which more explicitly is going to the home directory. We can put the explicit path to the home directory to get there, which is that. Or since we know that the home directory is 1 above our current directory, we could also do a .. / to get there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And now the next question is print your working directory to make sure that you're in your home directory. So this, I think we're all getting more and more comfortable with this command. So ! pwd. I use this command quite often. It's always good to know where you are in your structure. And so I think just about all of you got that one right. So pwd is what you're going to run to see where you are. So you have successfully navigated to your home directory. And then the last one, which I think you guys are all getting more comfortable with too, is the ls command. And that one will list everything in our current directory if we give it nothing. If you're listing things in your home directory, since we just CV'd into there, we don't have to provide any other argument because ls will default to listing what's in your current directory. However, we can also say list what's in my current directory. We can do it with a dot and a /. We can do an ls and a tilde, which will list things in our home directory, or a tilde and a /. So any one of those would have worked. And if we see again everything that's in our home directory, which is shown here on the left. And then the other thing I wanted to point out, just because you'll notice that there's something called tab complete encoding. So let's say that I wanted to list a certain file in here, and it starts with RNAseq. So let's say I want to list some of the RNAseq files. I could start typing and then hit the tab function, and options will come up to tell me all the files in my current directory that start with capital R, capital N. And then I could select one to autocomplete, which can be pretty convenient when you're listing things or you want to know what's in somewhere, or just if you're lazy and don't feel like typing everything out. It also minimizes the chance of making typos. So tab complete is something that I use often, and a lot of coders use tab complete all the time. Any questions about the CD command, the move command, the copy command? LS or PWD? Is everyone feeling good about those? Before I move on to cat? Okay. So we can move on to the cat command next then. So this command allows us to take a look at the entire contents of a file. And so cat stands for concatenate. And as we started off this Jupyter notebook running the head command, which views just the first few lines of a file, which is really useful a lot of the time, and most often that's what I use to open files, because files can be really large when working with RNA-seq data. But it is sometimes useful to view the entire file, or if you need to combine contents of the entire file with another file. So the cat command will print the full contents of a file. So for example here, if we were to run cat saturn.txt, it will print everything in that saturn.txt file that we've been playing around with. So in the next cell, I want you to use cat to view the full contents of the saturn.txt file. And so in this code block here, I want you to run your cat command to view what's in the saturn.txt file. And I'm going to give you guys a few seconds to fill that out. I won't put up a poll. I'll just give you guys a few seconds. Does anyone need more time? Okay, so if you guys want to, it'd be great if you put your commands in the chat. So what command did you use to open up your saturn.txt file with cat? So I'm gonna copy and paste. Yeah, thank you. Awesome. So we guys started writing this. Hoping all of you guys would respond in the chat, but yeah, you guys got it right. So it's exclamation point, again, because we're running a Unix command, cat, and then the name of the file, which is saturn.txt, and then run it. And you get, for some reason, your set sign still works and not adding exclamation point. Yeah, sometimes for some of the commands, Jupyter Notebook can recognize them as Unix commands and run them as such. So don't get used to doing that because it doesn't work for all commands, but some things the folks at Jupyter made it so that way it can run some of the Unix commands in a Python kernel. So don't get used to it. Always add the exclamation point, but it's true that sometimes some of these commands can be run without it. So we can see what's in our saturn.txt file. And the file was giving you a fun fact this whole time, which is that the International Space Station is 254 miles above the surface of the Earth. And so now that we've viewed the full context of our saturn.txt file, let's use the next code blocks to check that the contents of the mars.txt file is the same as that of the saturn.txt file, right? Because we just made a copy of the saturn.txt file and ultimately renamed it to mars.txt. So that file should have the exact same information as the saturn.txt. So in this next cell block here, I want you guys to write the command to open up your mars.txt file. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about that, and then I'm going to have you put your responses in the chat. Put your commands in the chat. So we're looking for the command to open up the mars.txt file. Yeah, I see a couple of you guys putting the answers in the chat. Right. Yeah, so it's going to be the same exact command. We're going to use this cat command again, except this time we want to take a look at what's in the mars.txt file. So we're going to cat mars.txt file, and indeed we see that it says the same exact thing as the saturn.txt file, which is good because we made a copy of the saturn.txt file and called it mars.txt. So these files should contain exactly the same information, and they do. So we're going to take a look at some of the other files in our home directory with the cat command. So in this next cell, I want you to use the cat command to tell me how many lines are in the example.txt file. And so I'm not going to have you put in the chat. I am going to put this one up as a poll. So I want you to open up that example.txt file, and in the poll that I'm going to bring up, I want you to just tell me how many lines are in the example.txt file. Okay, the poll is open. So insert into the poll how many lines are in the example.txt file. A couple more of you. Make sure that you're answering that poll. So I want you to use this cell to take a look at your example.txt file and let me know how many lines are in the example.txt file. Looks like still about 2 more of you. We need to complete the question. Actually, a few more than that. Like I'm waiting on 1 or 2 more. Let's go ahead and tell me how many lines are in that example.txt file. Give a few more seconds. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Yeah, most of you got it right. So the command that we would use here, just like we did with the saturn.txt and the mars.txt file, is this cat command, except this time the file that we want to open up is the example.txt file. So you would run cat and then example.txt, and then you'd go ahead and run that, and that'll open up the entire example.txt file. So this is everything that was in there. And as you can see, there are 20 lines in that example.txt file. So that's what we do that. So if you remember when we ran head on this one, the default for head was to just show the first 10 lines. We could then add that -n option to the head command and tell it to print as many lines as we want to, up to the max number of lines. So if we would want to print the first 18 lines, we'd use head with that -n option, saying that we want the first 18 lines of the example.txt file. We would see that. But then the cat command will open up the entire file. So I was in the wrong directory. I'm glad you're able to figure it out, Joe. Yeah, anytime if you're unsure, if things are looking weird, check to see where you are with that pwd command and make sure you're in the directory that the rest of us are in. And then, of course, the cat file, as I mentioned, opens up the entire contents of the file. And so the entire contents of the example.txt files contain 20 lines. All right, I'm actually going to add another thing after this, but let's do this one first. So thus far, we've been using cat to view files in our current directory. But if you want to open a file that's not in your current directory, you can still use cat. You would just have to provide the full path to the file that you want to view. And so in this example, it's showing how to open up your mars.txt file that's in your home directory. So I want you to use the next cell block to look at the Saturn.txt file that's in your solar system folder. So I want you to open up explicitly in your solar system folder, and you can use so writing out the explicit path to your solar system folder. You can also use a combination of shortcuts to get to your solar system folder if you'd like. And I'm going to set this up as a polling question. So I want you guys to think about what the command looks like from your current directory, right? We're currently in, if you're unsure where you are, you can always run your pwd command. So we should all be in our home directory, and I want you from your home directory to open up the Saturn.txt file that's in your solar system directory using the cat command. So think about that, and I am going to open this question up as a poll. And I want you guys to copy paste your answers in the poll. What's a create a new cell keyboard shortcut? I always do the add button. I don't know, Lauren or Mike, do you guys know the add a new cell shortcut on the keyboard?
I do not know the shortcut. I always use the add button too.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the shortcut is. Sure, we could Google it. Let's Google it. Go
So
ahead.
there are a lot of shortcuts listed under the edit button on the top bar.
Under here.
Yeah,
Oh,
but I
nice.
don't see an add.
Cut cells, copy cells, paste cells, delete cells. Yeah, why wouldn't there be an add one?
If you run a cell with Option and Enter, it automatically adds one beneath.
Run it with what, Mike?
Holding Option and hitting Enter.
Oh, it also ran the cell that I was in. So
Yeah.
ran the cell. Yeah, anytime you run a cell, I think it usually adds one below it automatically.
Oh, now
I got
the
it to work with escape and B.
Escape B. Oh, there it is. I think you're right there. At least on a Mac. Escape and B. Still waiting on a few more people. I want you to open up the Saturn.txt file in your solar system folder from your home directory. So I think I'm just waiting on a couple more people. Alt Enter on Windows. Cool. Thanks, Joel. So it looks like Escape B on a Mac and Alt Enter on a Windows will give you a new shortcut for a new cell. Make sure you guys are filling in that poll question to let me know the command that you're using to open up your Saturn.txt file that's in your solar system folder from your home directory. Give a few more seconds. I think, yeah. We're almost done, so hopefully we'll be able to finish before the break. Okay, a few more seconds if you haven't submitted your answers already. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close the poll. So I got a mix of answers. Okay, so right now we're in our home directory. This is tricky because we have a Saturn.txt file in our home directory, but I wanted you to open up the Saturn.txt file in your solar system folder. So some of you guys had written cat, whenever you use your tab complete, Saturn.txt. So remember, this will open up the Saturn.txt file, but it's going to open up the Saturn.txt file in your current directory, which is in your home directory. But I want you to open it up in your solar system directory. And so a couple things you could do, since we know that the solar system folder is in your current directory, you could tell the cat command to look in my current directory for a folder called solar system, and then add a / at the end of that. And in that solar system directory, I want to view the Saturn.txt file. So that's one way you could have done it. And it'll open it up, and of course this has that same fun fact in there. Another way you could have done this is, instead of saying my current directory, which we know is our home directory, if you were somewhere else in the file system, you could use your tilde, which is a shortcut to home. And you know that in your home directory, you have a subdirectory called solar system. And in that solar system directory is where the Saturn.txt file is that we want to view. So that's another way that you could have ran the command. You also could write the explicit path to your home directory, which is going to be this here. And then within your home directory, you have the solar system subdirectory, and that's where that Saturn.txt file is. So any one of these would work. I think some of you guys got it. Some of you guys were viewing the file in your home directory instead of your solar system folder. So just make sure you're recognizing where you are within your system. Before we move on to assigning variables, one of the most useful things about cat is it allows you to combine files. And make new files. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to open up both my Saturn.txt file and my Mars.txt file that are in my home directory. So double check that you're in your home directory. So I currently am. So you should all see home Jovian on there. And then add another line here. And I want you to open up at the same time with one command both your Saturn.txt file and your Mars.txt file. And once you guys know what that command looks like, I want you to put it in the chat. So what does the command look like to open up both two files that are in your home directory, your Saturn.txt file and your Mars.txt file? Yeah, Mark, you got it. So it looks like Mark beat everyone to it. And that's right. So in our current directory, and then you always want to make sure that the files you want to look at are actually in your home directory or your current directory. And so I did an ls here to make sure that, okay, the two files I want to see, Mars.txt and Saturn.txt, are indeed there. And so I can run this command that I copy and pasted from Mark. And so I'm going to run the cat command, again, starting with the exclamation point since it's Unix. And I want to open up my Saturn.txt file, and then I want to open up my Mars.txt file. So you can actually open up as many files as you want, separating each file with a space. So now if I go ahead and run that, I see, of course, both these files contain the same thing. And so what you're seeing here are the contents from your Saturn.txt file first, followed by your Mars.txt file second. And so why this is useful is a lot of times with RNA sequencing, we will sequence the same sample on multiple different lanes. And so what happens is sometimes when you get this from a core facility, they'll give you back your sequence files, and it will be, here's 4 files that are all for this one sample. And the first thing that you have to do is combine those files together so that way you have one file that has all of your sequences for one sample. And you could do that with the cat command. And you can also, so right now I just printed it out, but if I wanted to save this as a new file that contains both the contents of my Saturn.txt file and the contents of my Mars.txt file, I can do that with an arrow. So that little caret pointing to the right key, if you put that, that'll direct the standard output into a new file, and you could give it a file name. So I want to direct this, and since this is Saturn and Mars combined, I'm going to call it sm.txt. It's going to be the new file that I want to create. And so basically what I'm telling this to do is open up the Saturn.txt file, then open up the Mars.txt file, and put the contents of those two files into a new file called sm.txt. And so if everyone, I'll copy and paste this command in the chat if everyone wants to run that command with me. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. And then when it's done running, go ahead and add a cell and then run ls. And what you should see is a new file called sm.txt that you just created by combining the contents of Saturn.txt with the contents of Mars.txt. And so to make sure that this did what you expected it to do, you can add another code block here, and then we'll take a look at that new sm.txt file that we just created. And we see that indeed it contains the contents of both the Saturn.txt file followed by the contents of the Mars.txt file. So CAD is also used not only to open files and look at them, but can also be used to combine the contents of multiple files and can be redirected with that arrow key into a new file. Any questions about that? Yeah, it's a linear join. Yeah. So Lauren, after the break, is going to be showing you how to do some fun combinations of data frames and things like that in R. But in the cat command, it'll combine it. And you could take a look, of course, at the cat help menu. And cat may have, I don't know, because I usually just use it like this, but cat may have some options that allow you to use just the first so many lines with another so many lines of the next file. So there's likely options in cat to allow you to play with it. Just confirm it used to combine contents of the file and put them into a new file, which can also be named in the same command. Yeah, exactly. So we could play with this again. So if we want to add another block, right, we have another file in here called example.txt. You guys remember we all just took a look at that example.txt file, and it's just a text file that says this line is. And so now if we wanted to combine that file with, say, our Saturn.txt file, right, and we want to make that a new file called, let's say, ex for example, s for Saturn.txt, right, so I'll put this in the chat. So now if we go ahead and open up our example.txt file and then open up our Saturn.txt file and we put that output to a new file called exs.txt. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. And then I'll add a block here and run ls. And indeed, I now do have that new file I just created in my current directory called esx.txt. And now if I want to take a look at what that file has inside of it, I can run it. And what you see is that I have all the contents that was in my example.txt file, followed by the contents of the Saturn.txt file. So yeah, this cat command can be used to view contents of the file. It could also be used to combine information from the files. And then just one more here. I'm actually going to put this up as a poll question. I want you to make a new file that combines the contents of example.txt, Saturn.txt, and Mars.txt. And I want you to tell me what that looks like. And I'm going to set this up as a poll question. Okay, so I just opened up the poll. I want you guys to create a new file called exsm.txt, and I want that file to contain all of the contents of the example.txt file, all of the contents of the Saturn.txt file, and all of the contents of the Mars.txt file. And copy and paste that command into the poll and then submit it. All right. So I got a question, Ty. If you wanted to create that new file in a different directory, you would just specify the explicit path with the new file name after it. Yes, exactly, Ty. I'm assuming the order in which you listed the files in your command dictates the content. Yes, exactly. So the order of the files that you put is the order that it will show up in your final file. So I want to see all of you guys responding to that poll question to tell me what your command looks like to combine the example.txt file, the Saturn.txt file, and the Mars.txt file into a new file called exsm.txt. So then if I'm not happy with the order, can I just rewrite the same command and have the oldest file? Yep, you absolutely can. Yeah, I got just one more person. And I finished a couple more people. Finish that. So I'll give you guys a few more seconds and then I want to finish this section and let you guys go on break. When we come back from break, we'll do the last section of this Jupyter Notebook, which is assigning variables. Give you guys 20 more seconds here. We'll go over this one. Must files have the same extension? So you could pick and choose whatever extension you want it to be. These are text files, so you really should give it the extension of the file type that it is. So since they're text files, I've been naming everything with .text at the end. Yeah, so most of you guys got this one. Some of you guys mixed up the order of things. And so again, the order is going to dictate what it goes into. So I want you to combine example.txt, standard.txt, and Mars.txt. And I know that we're at time here, so let me just show you this one and then we'll all head to break. So cat example.txt, then I wanted you to cat Saturn.txt, then I wanted you to Mars.txt, and I wanted you to name that file exsm.txt. And then you can run your ls command, and you should now see that new file, exsm.txt there. And then we can cat that file. And see that now we have the example.txt followed by one line, then the other one line for Saturn.txt and one for Mars. And then just quickly to show you the order before I send you guys off for your break. So if we take a look at this, but now let's change the order. So instead of having Saturn.txt come after, we're going to have it come before example.txt and then Mars.txt. And I'm going to keep it the same file name to show you that it overwrites. And then we can run that and then add a new cell here and now take a look at that same file, right? So whereas before, when we did example.txt followed by Saturn.txt followed by Mars, we saw it look like this, right? So the context in the order that we displayed it. Now we should have just overwritten that file, this time showing the contents of Saturn.txt followed by example.txt followed by Mars.txt. And indeed now when I look at that file, it has changed because I overwrote it. And I have the contents of Saturn.txt coming first, just like dictated in my cat command, followed by example.txt, and then followed by the Mars.txt. And then I think it was Ty that said it in the chat, if you wanted to put this somewhere else, let's say I wanted to put this in my solar system folder, solar system directory, I could just say put it in my current directory, in that current directory in my subdirectory solar system, and then name that file like that. You could also run that. And now that file, if we wanted to ls what's in our solar system directory, and run it, I now see that file that I did up here with the explicit path to solar system, all right, it does include a shortcut, so I shouldn't say explicit. I was able to put it in that folder. Yeah. Thanks, Lauren, for answering the question. So we're 3 minutes into our break. I'm very sorry about that. I do want to let you guys all go and take your break. So please be back here by 9:50. And we will pick up with assigning variables in Unix, and we can go over anything in the cat before that. So please be back by 9:50.